Angelman syndrome. What is Angelman syndrome? Angelman syndrome is a genetic disorder that affects the nervous system. It was first described by an English pediatrician by the name of Harry Angelman in 1965. This disorder is characterized by severe developmental delays, lack of functional speech development, and difficulty walking or balancing well. Also, unusual motor behaviors, trouble sleeping, seizures, and frequent laughter or smiling. This disorder is known as the happy puppet syndrome. This is because of the child's sunny outlook and jerky movements. So if you've ever heard of this disorder and you've not heard of it being called Angelman syndrome, you might have heard it be called happy puppet syndrome. These are just a few photos of people with Angelman syndrome. What causes Angelman syndrome? Most cases are not inherited. They are most oftentimes caused by deletion in the maternal chromosome 15 or by uniparental disomy. And uniparental disomy is where there is two copies of the father's chromosome 15 and the mother's copy is actually missing. Another cause is by a rearrangement of chromosomes called a translocation, or by a mutation or other defect in the region of DNA that controls the UBE3A gene. This inactivates the UBE3A or other genes on the maternal side. Genomic imprinting refers to a process where the maternal copy of a gene can actually be marked or imprinted differently than the paternal copy of the same gene. That is another cause. And about 10 to 15% of affected individuals with AS have an unknown cause. This means that all tests that are done on those individuals, they actually are normal, but they meet the diagnostic criteria for AS. And this is just going over a little more on that UBE3A gene that I mentioned in the previous slide. That gene is on chromosome 15 on the brain. This gene is a protein coding gene, and it provides instructions for making a protein called ubiquitin protein ligase E3A. Ubiquitin protein ligases are actually enzymes that target other proteins to be broken down within cells. Protein degrading is a normal process that removes damaged or unnecessary proteins and helps maintain the normal functions of cells. Studies have suggested that the ubiquitin protein ligase E3A plays a critical role in the normal development and function of the nervous system. So you can see kind of where that falls into play with this disorder affecting the nervous system. When can this disorder be detected? It's actually not usually detected until a baby between the ages of 6 to 12 months of age are showing signs of developmental issues. Speech impairment is pronounced with little to no use of words. And how, of course, is it diagnosed? A blood test can actually detect up to 80 to 85% of individuals with Angelman by identifying whether the UBE3A gene is functioning properly. For the remaining 15 to 20% of individuals, an experienced clinician who is familiar with Angelman syndrome can actually provide a clinical diagnosis. 50% of individuals with AS are actually originally misdiagnosed. Disorders that are most common to AS is Prader-Willi, cerebral palsy, and autism. Treatment for this disorder. The most common treatment methods would be taking anti-seizure medications, physical therapy, communication therapy to kind of help with speech impairment, behavioral therapy to manage hyperactivity and the shortened attention span that comes along with this disorder. All treatment is actually aimed to manage the disorder and developmental difficulties. This is because there is no cure for Angelman syndrome, unfortunately. This is just a case study that I ran across, and this is a girl by the name of Jess. This is her story. She was diagnosed with AS at age 13, which is much older than the normal 6 to 12 months. 13 years old. She was actually originally diagnosed, though, with cerebral palsy by a developmental pediatrician. And she was actually diagnosed with the cerebral palsy at around age 3. Her mom, Mary Kay, said that she was told by this pediatrician that Jess would never be able to walk or talk, and told Mary Kay just to love her best that she could. Jess had not said her first words until she was 18 months, and shortly after that, at 22 months, she took her first steps independently. So the first neurologist, though, that they saw actually ran genetic testing and got no definitive results. Jess's mom often questioned, though, if the tests were actually ran correctly. Mary Kay did not feel that the diagnosis Angelman syndrome really fit her daughter, but she sees that the diagnosis so late in her life to be a blessing in disguise because it allowed her to see Jess's true potential and many others as well. The words developmentally delayed and autistic were always thrown around by teachers, but no one truly knew what was going on with Jess. Labels might define, but they most definitely limit us. This story proves that AS can actually manifest differently, and no two cases are the same. This is some research that I found, and it is the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. They have a clinical trial underway attempting to develop an informational database and a genetic material biobank. This research would be the key for understanding the symptoms of AS and its specific genetic causes. This is the Foundation for Angelman Syndrome Therapeutics. It's a nonprofit organization of families and professionals, and their sole mission is funding research, education, and policy regarding the development of a cure for AS. They have actually been funding AS research since 1996. Which is a long time. Their most recently funded research, which is ongoing, is looking at how speech-generating devices and alternative communication immersion might benefit those with AS. So as you can see, there's some pictures of just some families and people that are really involved with this foundation. And of course, Colin Farrell. I'm sure you guys know who Colin Farrell is, but his oldest son, James, was actually diagnosed with Angelman syndrome. He's using his celebrity for a greater good. Colin is a huge advocate and fundraiser on behalf of groups working for a cure for Angelman syndrome. So I thought that was kind of neat to share. International Angelman Day, February 15th. Thought that was kind of neat. I wanted to share that as well. And of course, my tree. And as you can see there, they're basically in the same family. All of them are really. And then my sources. I hope you enjoyed my video. Thank you.